Jai Mahamaya ki jai, Vishveshwari Mata ki jai, Bole Baba ki jai. In our last discourse, we read about the Divine Mother telling Himalayan all about the sacred pilgrimage sites and the sacred vows. We'll go on now with chapter 39. The Himalaya said, O Devi, O Maheshwari, O thou, the ocean of mercy, O world mother, now describe in detail how thy worship is conducted, the rules and ceremonies thereof. The Devi said, O king of mountains, I now describe to you the rites and ceremonies and the methods of my worship that are pleasing to me. Hear it attentively with faith. My worship is of two kinds, external and internal. The external worship is again twofold. One is Vedic and one is Tantric. The Vedic worship is also of two kinds, according to the differences in any forms. Those who are initiated in the Vedic mantras worship according to the Vedic rites and ceremonies, and those who are initiated in the Tantric mantra worship according to the Tantric rites. First, I will describe to you the Vedic worship here, the highest form of mind that you saw before, with innumerable heads, innumerable eyes, innumerable feet, and the illuminator of all intelligence, of all the jivas, endowed with all the powers higher than the highest, very grand. Worship that, bow down to that, and meditate on that. This is the first form of worship that I describe to you. With your senses controlled, peaceful, with a well-concentrated mind, void of egoism and vanity, and devoted to that, perform sacrifices to that, take refuge, that, see that within the temple of your mind, and always recite her names and meditate on her. Take hold of me and my ideas with one pointed loving devotion, and please me with the performance of sacrifices, austerities, and gifts. By my grace, you will no doubt be able to get the final liberation, whoever is entirely attached to me, thinking me as the highest in the foremost amongst the bhaktas. I promise that I will certainly deliver him from this ocean of the worlds. O King of the mountains, meditation with karma and jnana, with bhakti, will lead one to me. Only the work alone will fail to get on to me, O Himalayas. From Dharma comes bhakti, and from bhakti arises the highest jnana. What are said in the Shrutis? What are said in the Shrutis and Sastras, the Maharishis take that as the Dharma, and what are written in the Sastras, take them to be the shadow or reflection of the Dharma. One of my omniscient and omnipotent nature, out of my omniscient and omnipotent nature, the Vedas have come, owing to that want of ignorance in me. The Vedas can never be invalidated. The Smritis are formed out of the meanings of the Vedas. So the Smritis and Puranas formed by Manu and the other rishis are authoritative. In some places, it is hinted that there are other sastras than the Vedas, taking the tantras indirectly into account. Although the matters relating to the dharmas are mentioned therein, but as they are apparently contrary to the Shrutis, the tantras are not accepted by the Vedic pundits. The other sastra makers are marked with their ignorance, so their sayings cannot be authoritative. Therefore, he must resort entirely to the Vedas, who want final liberation. As the king's order is never disobeyed amongst his subjects, so the Shruti, the command of mind, the Lord of all, can never be abandoned by men. To preserve my commandments, I have created the Brahmanas and the Kshatriya castes. My secrets are all embodied in the Shrutis. For that reason, the words of the Shrutis are no doubt to be known and observed by the sages. O mountain, when the Dharma, righteousness, declines, and adharma, unrighteousness, reigns supreme, I then manifest myself in the world as Sakambari, Rama, Krishna, and others. Therefore, the Devas, the preservers of the Vedas, and the Dhyatas, the destroyers of the Vedas, are classified. Whoever does not practice according to the Vedas, I have created many hells for their lessons. When the sinner hears of these hells, they get extremely terrified. The sastras that are extant as contrary to the Shristis and the Smritis are all tamasic sastras. Those Brahmins that were burnt up by the curses of Daksha, Sukra, Dadiki, and were banished from the path of the Vedas, it is for delivering these less valid sastras. Step by step, Mahadev has framed the 5 Agama, Saivas, Vaishnavas, Saras, Saktas, and Ganapati Satras. In those Tantra Sastras, there are some passages in conformity with the Vedas, and there are some passages contradictory to them. If the Vedic person resorts to passages in conformity with the Vedas, then there cannot arise any fault. Therefore, the Vedic Brahmins should resort to the Vedas with all care possible and make the Parabrahma of the nature of jnana manifest within them. The Samnasins, Vanaprasthas, householders, and brahmacharis should give up all their desires and take refuge in me, free from egoism and vanity, kind to all creatures, their hearts wholly given over to me, and engaged in speaking with speaking out my places with enrapt devotion. They always worship my cosmic form, immersed in the yoga called Aishvarya Yoga, cosmic yoga, dealing with the glories of God. I illumine the understanding with the sun of my consciousness, and I destroy the darkness of ignorance of those persons that are always engaged in practicing yoga with me. There is no doubt in this. Thus, I have described in brief the methods and practice of the Vedic puja. Now I will tell the tantric puja. Hear attentively. On an image or clean plot of ground, or on the sun, a moon, in water, in vanalinga, in yatra, on a yatra, or on a cloth, or in the lotus of your heart, one is to meditate and worship the blissful, higher than the highest, the Devi, who creates this universe with the 3 gunas, sattvic, rajasic, and tamas, who is filled with the juice of mercy, who is blooming in youth, whose color is red like the rising sun, whose beauty overtops to the full, whose all the limbs are exquisitely beautiful, who is this sentiment of love incarnate, who feels very much for the mental pain of her bhaktas, who being pleased manifests herself before the bhaktas, on whose forehead the segment of the crescent moon shines incessantly, and whose 4 hands holds goad, noose, and the signs of fearlessness, and to grant boons. Until one is entitled to the internal worship, one should worship the external. Never he is to abandon it. Worship is the internal when one's heart gets deluded in Parabrahma, of the nature of the universal consciousness. O mountain, know my consciousness, Sandit, to be my highest nature, without any limitation. Therefore, it is highly incumbent to attach one's hearts free from adjuncts constantly to this Samvit. And what is more than the Samvit is this elusive world full of Maya. So to get rid of this world, one is to constantly meditate on me, the witness of all, the self of all, with a heart fully devoted and free from any sankalpas or desires. O best of mountains, now I will describe to you in detail the external form of worship. Hear attentively. Here ends the 39th chapter of the 7th book on the worship of the World Mother of the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, the Mahapuranam, 18,000 verses by Maharishi Veda Vyasa. Jai Mahamaya Ki Jai. Vishveshvarimata Ki Jai. Bole Baba Ki Jai.